Greetings, greetings. You are back to Mad Poet Podcast. I am your host, Alex Murdoch. Hope everybody is doing well out there and having a positive go of the week as it just sounds better, it sounds good at the moment to put it that way. But yes, you know, I'm hoping that people are not hearing what I'm hearing on my side, but it's sort of out of my control. Um, I'm stationed right now between a few churches, and they're sort of, you know, going AWOL a little bit, going a bit crazy with the ringings and stuff. So my apologies if you're hearing church bells in the back. Although my sound is saying that it's being filtered, basically. So hopefully that is your experience and not the latter, meaning you're very aware um, of the situation, the church bells. Um, but despite that, positive. Hope everybody's having a positive, and all the graces out there. Good graces, and hope you're having fun with it. Like I've been having fun with it, and it's been a positive one. I can't really. Well, I never do, but um, I've been having fun with it, and I hope you're doing the same too. And I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's supporting the platform and have been around to, give your feedback, give um, your your interpretation or your ideals pertaining to the topics that we're speaking about, and just how it resonates with you. And if you could keep doing that, that would be great. That would be great. I appreciate all the effort that everyone's doing, and I think it's very important to me to know that when people um, understand, or whatever their situation they're going through, it at least adds or make an impact in a positive way, of course, to their life, and perhaps give them closure or bring them closer to their situation, to somewhat have a bit more of an understanding of what it is that they're going through, etc., etc., as I like to say. While I'm here, I don't do a lot of promotion as I should. So, but I should say, but um, I want to share with you. This is my most recent release. This is the second that came of Poetry Vent. Or should I say, Ramblings? Sorry, Ramblings of a Madman. That's the first. This is Chaotic Ramblings. And I'm very proud of this book. I have to say, I'm very proud of this book because it tells a story. It tells a journey. It tells growth of where I've been, where I am, and somewhat indication of where I'm going. And I pride myself on not being stationary with my growth, I would say. So that means I learn, whatever it means for me to move forward, I get it done. And it's poetry, but at the same time, it's archive of ideals, culture, my culture, of means or ways I make things happen, or I find ways to be better. As they say, the good saying goes, don't be sorry, be better. And so, that's the way I like to think about it. Um, Now, let's get to the crux of the matter, shall we? Why are we here? Well, let's start from the top. Um, it's the piece. Well, I'll just say this. We're supposed to strings might be able to make it. He might not. He might not. I understand he's having a few delays at the moment, so it might just be you know one and one just by myself today. But and as we do, we persevere. Yes, back to the piece. As it goes, they say home is where the heart is, but I was never made to stay stagnant. Thus my bags stay packed. Convenient. I never had to leave the heart behind. Ventricles compartmentalized, a compass to the darker times, telling rhymes like they knew the time. So when it's time, I pride myself on being concise. I pride myself on being concise. To be wise is nothing sweet or hard, a chameleon design. Now, seeing as I'm doing this by myself, I do have the luxury of doing it again. And this is just to somewhat um, give people a chance to somewhat soak things in. To say home is where the heart is, they say home is where the heart is, pardon me. But I was never made to stay stagnant. Thus, my bags stay packed. Convenient. I never had to leave the heart behind. Ventricles compartmentalized. A compass. Darker times. Telling rhymes like they knew the time. So when it's time, I pride myself on being concise. To be wise is nothing sweet or hard. A chameleon design. Yes. So that's the quote for the quote I'd like to share. Um, I'm curious about, of course, I'm curious about a lot of things, but at the same time, I have questions, what makes a man want to survive is something that I think that's a thought that's been with me for as long as I can remember. Um, not necessarily the epitomizing factor of it that I want to survive per se, but more the ideals behind it, meaning the instinct behind it and what is born by merely entertaining the ideals of survival. Because this is, you might call it basic instinct, but at the same time, this foundation instincts, isn't it? Because the at the base of everything, that's your foundation. So ultimately, before anything came, this was what you have. You know, this is the year 2025, but when you think back in medieval times, we were somewhat more animalistic, wouldn't you say, compared to where we are now? And if you go further back, I would say we will be more driven by our instincts or survival instincts, to be exact, even more so than today, which is intriguing to me. And what makes a man want to survive? Of course, the elephant in the room is the fact to pass on, to multiply, to evolve. But evolution takes time, so you might not be able to evolve, but perhaps you can live long enough. Your DNA can exist long enough where um, it leaps the feats of evolution. I would say not necessarily you, but your DNA and ultimately your culture, because by passing on what you have, some of your essence goes with your DNA. So even your ideals of survival, something, and of course, this is a very nuanced situation, but something will stay. Something will stay. And that's very curious to me. That's very curious to me. You know, what makes a man want to survive? Yes. So that was the elephant in the room. And I suppose you could say it's also the macro, meaning the grand scheme of things. But if we're speaking about an individual in the here and now, or even then, I just want to focus more on the individual that makes things so much more of a different turn on things, which is very intriguing in itself, you know. Um, so that's the idea I'm thinking about. So let's just dive into it. So from the scope of the individual, I also wanted to interject um, Maslow's hierarchy, um, pyramid. Maslow's hierarchy pyramid. Just give me a second. I'm just we're doing it live. Shout out to CGA. Respect to him. Um, I'm sure quite a lot of people might be familiar with this, where I'm going with this. But I've been curious about this, and so I thought this was the right time to somewhat just jump into it. Um, Now, of course, we know there's 5 levels, or I'm sure there's 5 levels to it. There's the first level, which is the psychological needs. Level 2, safety needs. 3, love and belonging needs. 4, self-esteem needs. And the fifth, self-actualization. Now, what I'm seeing with this, for me in my head right now, just thinking about it, if you think about the first 3, psychological, safety, love, and belonging, I always find, just give me a second. Um, yes, there's a lot to do with survival. So, in essence, what I'm saying is the basics: food, water, shelter. It could be as simple as that. Meaning the motivation behind your reasons for survival. Um, just give me a second. I'm just sort of kind of multitasking a little bit. Do, 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 do. Um, just give me a second. I'm just yeah. Yeah, so that's essentially what it is. And so ultimately, at the end of the day, it's if you think about back in them days, it's like people will kill for the simplest of things. And I guess where I'm going with this is survival, right? Sorry, I'm just kind of all over the place at the moment with my screens. But bear with me. Let me just get this correct. So yes, as we discussed, there is the idea of survival, and it starts with the basics. Um, I just want to tap into this, not necessarily spend too much time, but of course you have the safety. But there's an evolution here. There's also there's always going to be a reflection on your culture, meaning meaning as we know, as we've spoken about before, culture evolves, and I suppose where I'm getting at is survival also evolves. Ultimately, the next question now would be, I would ask you is, let me just go back to my, as you know, I always have a plan, as they say. But what makes a man want to thrive? At the end of the day, man lives. You know what? Let me focus more on an individual. As an individual like myself, I would imagine not necessarily broad stroking, but the individual, in theory, in my mind, is supposed to evolve. It's supposed to be better than he was yesterday. It's supposed to thrive, or at least survive in any means that defines thriving. Ultimately, is where I'm going with this. So, if survival means, or if thriving means within the parameters of survival means I have to somewhat, it means extension of my life, then does that does that define evolution? I guess what I'm asking is, if I survive for a period, um, does that define evolution? Or is evolution simply defined by climbing that theory, climbing this hierarchy that we're talking about, speaking to Maslow's hierarchy? Now, I'm only using that as sort of like a sort of like a gauge, for the levels as we were speaking about. I guess the question I'm asking is, can the people actually thrive in survival? Now, in theory, I don't think they can. But by definition, if you think about how humans exist, ultimately, it seems to me we've survived long enough to thrive. It's just the difference is we've sort of kind of lived this over decades. Well, not decades, thousands of years. So I guess the question I'm asking is, does it take this long to actually understand what thriving is? Or, or thriving is merely a perception. Thriving is merely a perception. Let me explain. Because, right, if I'm living in a stone age and I've got me like five women, I've got me like five women. Just hear me out. I am a mad poet after all, so I'm gonna go a bit hazy. And I got like five women, right? And they're all my wives. Let's just call me Mike. And I got like five wives. And it's the best life I've ever had. I'm having everybody think, of course, I'm a high value man at this point. and having the best life of my life. I don't know any better. I don't know any better. So this is the best I've been. This is the best I'm going to have, and I'm living it. And I think I'm in, as the English would say, I'm the dog's bollocks, right? As in, it's a good thing. I know a lot of people get that wrong, but yes, I'm the dog's bollocks, and I'm great. And by that definition, Maslow's hierarchy, um, does that mean I'm thriving? Does that mean I'm thriving? That's the real question. So, going back to this now, let's start the theory. That's level 3. You know, I got 5 wives, remember? So love and belonging needs, the need for social connection, belonging emerges after safety needs of safety. Love and belonging needs. And let's not forget, I've got esteem, feeling a sense of belonging. 5 wives will do that to you. Individuals, you know, and if I'm thinking to myself, man, I'm got to be a high value man in terms of like a hunter gatherer because I've got 5 wives. Let's not play around here. This is serious. That also defines the 5th, which is self actualization, which is intriguing to me. Very intriguing to me. Very intriguing to me. Okay. This leads me to the real question I'm curious about. Are we built for hard times or built by them? Let's explore this. You know, from a man's point of view, we know men are not born necessarily, men are made. So, by that definition, I have to think of it like, say, bones, for example. My bones have to go through trauma before they become strong, before they can get stronger, I should say. Whether you're talking the pressure from gravity or the pressure from breaking them, the pressure from physical exercise, the pressure from trauma in any form, they have to be somewhat pressurized before they can become hard. The same thing would go for diamonds. It's the same principle. It's the same principle. So ultimately, for me, the question, but let's flip it. Let's flip it. Um, Built by them. Are we built for hard times? or built by them. Now, as we've seen, there are many a times, I suppose what I'm saying is there's levels to this. And as we've seen, there's many a times when people are not necessarily ready for it, but again, perhaps there's a talent factor at play here. And let me just explain this. It is not as simple as it sounds. I say talent because perhaps a genetic factor where you're somewhat, as I mentioned in the beginning, we're speaking about culture or DNA being passed on. Now, perhaps your ancestor never had this preparation factor or this readiness for this obstacle that you're about to face and excelling, but they faced it nonetheless. And not necessarily come out unscathed, but they survived. So I guess what I'm saying is where they survived barely, you've just now thrived through this obstacle, like clean, like no issues, this, that. So I think with these questions, it seems to me there's not just a cultural situation, a cultural thing at play, but also genetics, being prepared, a sense of anticipation of the obstacles that's coming your way and being able to overcome them. I think these are factors that we can't somewhat neglect when it comes to the situation at hand or whatever whatever we're going to experience potentially down the line. And so these things are it's very intriguing. It's very intriguing. So I think if we sort of kind of compare now, I think in this question, clearly the elephant in the room is that it's tricky. It's tricky. But if I'm just gonna speak on the scope I've been speaking on, being consistent, then I would say yes. Men are built, and over time they get better at tackling their obstacles because as they advance, their situation and their obstacles also advance. But because they're constantly being tested, they're always able to overcome over time. And so you have Maslow's theory. You start with the basics and you work your way up. But I think whether you're thriving or you're living, perception is king. It all comes back to your thought of where you are and whether you're living or whether you're surviving, whether that means something to you. Because ultimately, I think that's the defining factor. Whether your foundation basic or you think you've made it, where you're thriving in life and this is it. The perception is the ultimate factor. It's the defining thing that makes us want to be better, want to be more, want to thrive for more. Now, is there some form of epigenetics at play? Perhaps. Perhaps. But it would seem to me that regardless, you have to make that choice to somewhat want more. Now, is there some kind of genetic force that you're adhering to, perhaps deep down? Maybe. Meaning your ancestor wanted this but wasn't good enough to make it happen for himself. So now you're born and you want it for yourself or you want it for who's next. And so you're trying to get it so you know how to give it to them as well. And so they can pass it on and then move on. Ascension. I suppose that's what I'm asking about. We're constantly able to ascend. So what makes us want to survive? Is it the hard times or the need to be built for the hard times so that when we are no longer here, whoever is here in our stead, they are built for their version of their hard times? See, that's another question as well. You know, evolution plays a serious factor in all these questions. But as we've ultimately said, ascension is epitomizing because it doesn't cover just the individual. Yes, the individual, yes, but the individual after me, the one that will ascend in my stead. When I leave this earth, who's going to carry my DNA, my genetics? How are they going to ascend? Are we built for hard times or built by them? Hmm, that's a very interesting question. And I'm just thinking about as much as I've run through it so far. Um, when we weren't born built for hard times, but we were born with the need to ascend through hard times. Thus, hard times makes us better, and so we ascend. Yes, indeed. Hmm. Yep. Just wanted to show my face and just have a conversation about this. But let me know what you think. Anybody's listening to this live, and just check things out and leave some feedback, and I'll definitely get back to you. But thanks so much for supporting the page. And like I said, just starting to promote more. Poetry event is out now, so go get yourself a copy and stay tuned. I'll see you soon. Take care.